Hi, my name is Lucas McGarry. I am conducting this interview for my ethnic studies course at Madera College, where we are learning about the experience of American minoritized groups. Do I have your permission to record our conversation and share with my professor?
Absolutely.
Okay. And would you please state your name for the record?
My name is BJ Smith.
All right, VJ. All right. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Fresno, California.
California. All right. And what was school like for you?
As far as early on or just in general?
Just take me through
So I grew up in Southeast Fresno from the start till fourth grade, and then we moved to this side of town, Northeast Fresno, and I attended. Early on, I attended Air Elementary, which is Fresno Unified, and then when I got to this side of town, I went to Liberty Elementary for 1 year, then Fugman Elementary for 1 year, Granite Ridge, and then Clovis North. So, yeah, school is definitely a different dynamic, night and day difference from just because you know how towns are or cities are, depending on where you're at. Night and day difference, but as far as um, how things were, I would say it was better in the long run moving over here as far as just academic success and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Did you go to college?
Yes. So after I graduated from Clovis North, I did my 2 years at the time Willow, which is now Clovis Community, and then eventually I went to Fresno State, and I'm still enrolled now. Actually, going to be finishing up my last semester at State, and so after that, I might go back and get my master's.
Nice.
We'll see.
What are
But
you majoring in?
my major is criminology,
Criminology.
so I've got my AA in criminology, and I'm working on getting my BA in criminology, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Nice. Do you have
Yeah.
like a job that you want to do?
Yeah, so I'm kind of split because I've taken some breaks in between my college career. When I first graduated from Clovis North, I worked at Bullard High School as an avid tutor, which is for 9th through 12th grade, various subjects, as well as doing. I worked the games for Fresno
Yeah.
Unified, football games, every football game for Fresno Unified, men's and women's basketball. But as far as career wise, working that made me want to go into teaching. A lot of my coworkers were going to school at the time to become counselors, and that was something that, in the back of my mind, I always wanted to at least help kids. And my, as far as school goes, I wasn't a major or wasn't a very good student. I would say my grades were good, but I didn't like school. I'll
Yeah.
put it like that. But once I started working with children and seeing that and then my coworkers, that put me in another mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to why I chose crim. Crim has always been something on my mind, especially being just a black male in the U.S. Right,
Mm-hmm.
um, and growing up on both sides, I wanted, and my experiences, I wanted to, you know, try and make a change or like inspire other younger minority kids. It's not every day you see a black cop or Asian cop, Mexican cop, and especially working at Bullard. I like working at Bullard because you saw both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You got rich kids, you got poor kids, you got black, Mexican, white, Asian, Indian, every race, um, not so much at Clovis North.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I continued with Crim and still wanted to pursue Crim, but now I've kind of honed in on wanting to go into probation or parole with juveniles. So that's how I kind of use both um, my passion and my degree to figure out where I want to do.
Nice. That's good. It's interesting that you brought up Avid because I was an Avid student too.
Really?
Yeah.
No, so same.
Uh-huh.
From what?
Yeah, freshman year to
Eight?
senior year.
Yeah, yeah, same.
So
Yeah, Avid program did me good. It did me good.
yeah.
It was something I didn't know I needed. I'll put it
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, definitely. So so just regarding your ethnicity, like how do you identify yourself?
So that's actually pretty funny. I always think about that question because when you pencil in, your race, they give you the bubbles, and it just says Black or African American. So to answer your question, I would just say I'm a Black American, and I say that because it's different for me because I'm not. This, my parents aren't from Africa, or and so on and so forth. So it's kind of at least in the Black community, it's a thin line kind of question because people, depending on who it is, they'll just view me as being Black,
Mhm.
which is I'm totally fine with being. But I can't necessarily say that I'm African American because of my friends who are Nigerian, who are actually African American people here. And so it Black or African American works, but once you get into details, it depends on who you
Yeah,
ask. So
definitely.
yeah, I would say I'm just a Black American.
Hmm. What are your thoughts or feelings towards like other minority groups?
Um, I guess the way I was raised, I don't think any differently or just with any race in general other than mine. Of course, it varies for different people. Um, I will say, since we talked about my upbringing and how different it is, um, as a kid and growing up until I got to this side of town, it was a predominantly Hmong society, Mexicans and blacks, not so many Caucasian people. And then on the flip side, coming here, I'm now outnumbered, you know, and so I would say it really just depends on your society and your environment because it doesn't really matter what race you are. What builds or what I guess you could say what builds you is your environment. So you can be a certain type of way just depending on the environment you grew up in.
Absolutely. So, what do you remember about when you learned about your race?
So I never really thought too much about it until my later years, and growing up, asking my parents. It's different for me because um, you know, as far as American history, my ancestors were enslaved. So I have a great uncle who actually went out of his way to try and find our genealogy, and he went back as far as he could until he couldn't, because as we all know, during that time period, people who were enslaved don't have records. So the closest thing we could find out was that, given my last name is Smith, we can infer that my background, my ancestors were enslaved by blacksmiths, for example. Um, so I, and then till this day, I mean, we've tried to do, or my sisters have tried to do more, ancestry.com, those kind of things. And I've come to find out that it's a huge mix of various backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds.
Mhm.
So I don't really I couldn't say pinpoint where exactly my first origin of folks came from. So it's kind of a mess. But yeah,
So I want to ask, have you had any personal experiences with racism?
absolutely. Um, Countless times, especially, and I will say it never started until I moved to this northeast side of town, and it's I don't know, it's kind of a weird subject because growing up, like I said, it doesn't matter what race you are, your environment is what builds you. I never thought of it. I never viewed anything. I didn't know like I knew about racism, but it was never done to me per se. To answer your question, but yes, it's happened um, countless times.
Mhm. Is there a certain experience that you think of whenever I ask that question?
Absolutely. Just yeah, from once I got to this side of town, being the outlier, so to speak, countless times of being called racial slurs, and then one specific time to answer your question, um, we've had people drive past our house, our old house, and scream out the N word or uh, mess with our property and stuff, which was solely due to race.
Mhm.
So I would say that's one thing for sure, other than just being at school, banter, kids are talking and they resort to racism and using slurs like that.
How did that affect you growing up?
So it's funny you asked that. I'm very different than how I used to be. And I was never a bad kid per se, but I'm a very hot headed person. So I remember kind of getting into a lot of fights, seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade fights or altercations where it would land me in trouble. And one thing my dad told me, which it was like a night and day difference, was you can't fight everyone who says something along those lines, right? And so that really resonated with me, and it's made me the person I am now. So I don't really, it stings or it hurts,
Mhm.
but it's more now me recognizing that people are just blatantly ignorant.
Mhm. What do you think the solution to that ignorance is?
I think, of course, it's easier said than done, and then everyone's different. So two things I'll say to answer that question: it depends on how you grew up. Some people don't know any better, but once they get to know me as a person, then you just see me as a person, or and then you can choose how to view me from that. Second part being um, just being more open minded. It's
Mhm.
easy. I'll put an example for you. It's easy to try food from a different culture or see it or, and be like, ew. But you're judging something from the outside until you actually have experienced it or tried it, you won't know. They say don't knock it till you try it.
Mhm.
So I put it like that.
Mhm. So, I wanted to ask, just throughout your entire life,
Hmm.
how say you said it shaped who you are today.
Right.
Who are you today?
Just as a whole,
Hmm.
and regarding what we're talking about, I'll say I'm someone who's become more open minded as the day goes and more self aware of my surroundings and other ethnicities and cultural backgrounds that other people have. Because I will say for sure I've never been someone that demeans another person given their race or ethnicity. But I've also, as a kid, haven't been open minded. You're ignorant, you don't know. So I'll say the person I am today is someone who tries to be more careful about judging foods and cultures if they don't resonate with my own.
Hmm.
And I think that's been the best for me because it makes you, for anyone, it will make you a better person just being open minded and, not thinking so much about the color of someone's skin or their cultural background. First, look at them as a person and then you can go from there. And, you know, so yeah.
Yeah. Has discrimination ever interfered with your life?
Mm, I would say that's a hard question to ask because, you try and give people the benefit of doubt.
Hmm.
There's sometimes in your soul where you know that you're being outed because of the color of your skin or something. But if you don't have the actual evidence for that being the reason, then you can't make that assumption, right? you can't make assumptions or regardless, right? So I'll say yes and no to that question. I know, like I said, there's some times where I've been wronged because of the color of my skin, but that's something that is hard to prove. And so at that point, you just got to keep pushing through it or overlook it and just try and be the best person that you can be to show the person who's discriminating against you or wronging you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Show
absolutely.
them that, that's the least of what they should be worried about.
Yeah, of course. Do you belong or participate in any social or any social groups that specifically that are for members of your ethnicity?
So in high school, I was in AAU. My time at Fresno State, I wanted to get into their AAU program. I haven't had the chance just given the gaps I've taken. So I refrained just because I couldn't be as active as I was in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, are you sorry? Are you involved in any political or social movements that focus on your ethnic group?
At the moment, no. For me, it's more just about recognizing what's happening, with at least within our nation, our
Yeah.
society, our town. Um, and if I could be a part to help it out, I would. But there hasn't been a chance that I've been able to participate in that regard.
Yeah. Looking down the line, like in the
Mm-hmm.
future, do you see yourself doing anything?
Yeah. So the way I see it, like we touched on earlier, the way I think I could give back as far as to my ethnic background or other minorities is through my career. So if I can eventually go into counseling or teaching, of course you're going to be helping every race, not just my own. But that's my way. That would be my way of helping people in my position. Or if I go into probation and parole juveniles, it's once again, it's not just black, Mexican, Asian, it's whites, everyone. But because of how I know black people in America are or how they've been raised, they they don't really have a person that looks like them that's advocating in their
Mhm.
corner. So that's where my focus is. That's how I feel like I can make a change and what I can do going forward in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, brought up, the different neighborhoods that you grew up in and
Right.
whatnot. Can you just describe like a kind of like the key differences between the two?
Absolutely. Biggest thing, which is not really so much race orientated, but two key differences or a main difference between living on that side of town and this side of town is just, I would say, more of a self respect. And the area I grew up in was very run down, not upkept. Here it's clean, it's nice for the most part. And I do think that somehow has to do with race. Um, you know, uh, a lot of people don't really care so much over there as they do here, and it could just be a geographical difference in itself. But yeah, very run down. Um, a lot of people just are. I think a lot of people don't care. I'll just put it like that because I can't really think about what the word I want to use. But I think it does have to do with um, cultural
Mhm.
differences. Like, and from there, of course, everyone's different. So it's not just everyone who's a minority over there versus here. But it's like when you see a different side, it makes you want to
Mhm.
be better, I'll
Mhm.
say. But
Mhm.
if you're accustomed to seeing trash in the streets, loose dogs, crime, then it's easy to fall into that or just accept it for what it is.
Mhm.
So I think that's
Mhm.
the best way I can answer that
Yeah,
question.
that's great. How has your let's say I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Mhm.
Actually, I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
What do your parents do?
So my mom works for the IRS. I think for the last 5 or 6 years. Prior to that, she was a bus driver for Fax for 20 plus years. And that's another way that I was able to see different sides, and I'm glad you asked that because it will tie into this. When I first moved out here, there's no bus systems. Now there's a bus that comes to on this side of town. Before, the closest bus would have been on Blackstone and Nice, and now it's growing. As far as transportation wise. My dad, he was a phone technician for like 20 years. Now he works for a company called BK Lighting, and he's basically another technician. He sits in a cubicle and he builds. They're called bombs, but he makes the floor. He makes all the lighting that you see in like colleges or
Mm,
all the lights in River Park. He creates that, and then it goes from there.
nice. Did your parents ever influence your career decision?
They've tried for sure, but my parents, I've been lucky, blessed, I would say for sure, to have two people who doesn't matter what I do, they got my back.
Mhm.
You know, even if it's not what they wanted me to do, they've never tried to force me to do anything. If anything, they'll tell me, "Hey, you should maybe try and go into this or go into this," because they know me better than I know myself. But other than that, I would just say they're fully supportive of whatever I choose to endeavor in.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what was school? I already asked this.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'll rephrase the question.
Yeah.
Uh, what did you do as a kid? Like, what were some of like your hobbies?
As a kid, very influenced in sports. My oldest sister was a junior Olympian, so we spent a lot of time going to track meets. When she was in the Junior Olympics, we flew to Cleveland, Ohio, because that's where it was hosted. She was a beast all through her collegiate years too. She still holds records at Buchanan.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and she's graduated in '07, so she's 34. She's old now. But yeah, so I would just say my hobbies, for sure, sports. Played basketball, football, baseball, pretty much everything. And then other than that, um, my grandmother was very heavy on us reading. So most kids, if I wasn't doing sports on the summertime, me and my sister actually had reading logs, and there's a competition between us every summer. So most kids are out having fun, and I'm reading, trying to beat my sister in how many books we read. Which at the time I did not like, but it's definitely played a heavy role in my life now. I read every day. And then other than that, so sports, reading, and then drawing is
Yeah.
another passion of mine. Love drawing. So yeah.
Did you beat your sister?
Oh, I would try, but she's different. She's different. I would try. Yeah, that's what made it fun. It was a competition. So
Yeah.
who doesn't want to beat your younger sibling? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I get that.
Or
Yeah.
older siblings too.
Hmm.
But yeah,
What kind of genre of books do you like to read?
crime or mystery, suspense, horror. Big a Stephen King fan. Now I'm actually reading. I'm in the midst of a 50 book series that my grandmother put me onto. I'm on book 34, and it's about an assassin. So
Nice.
that's my go-to genre.
Nice. You go to Barnes and Noble at all?
We used to a lot, and then very, very heavy on the libraries. But now I think I have three Kindles, so a lot of my time is now spent just reading at home on my Kindle.
That's that's awesome, bro.
Yeah, it's cool, but yeah, not what you expect. If you know me.
Yeah. So yeah. This will be my final question. And we'll
Yeah.
start to wrap this up. What's your favorite soda?
Favorite soda? I kind of stopped drinking soda. Nick, it's a toss up. Sprite or root beer.
Sprite root beer.
easy. Yeah, I'll say that for sure. Probably Sprite.
That's right.
McDonald's Sprite is just
No.
different.
That's true. That's true. Anyways, yeah, thank you, BJ, for
Of course.
allowing me to interview you for this paper.
Of course.
It really means a lot. So,
Of course, man. Hopefully I wasn't yapping too much.
no, yeah,
You
you're
know what I
good.
mean?
You're good.
It's easy for me to get off course.
Yeah, it's all good. And this concludes our interview. Thank you for listening.
Sweet.